Hi guys, welcome to Hoops Junction. With the recent shootings and the most recent one of Terrence Crutcher in Tulsa, Steve Kerr recently came out and said that no matter what side of you or what opinion you have regarding officers or minorities, you simply have to be disgusted with the amount of police shootings of U.S. citizens, especially minorities, African Americans. They are being targeted. It is not a it's not a made up thing. It's not a fantasy. There are statistics which show that African Americans are targeted most by the police, and they are suffering. Especially the males, African American males, are suffering the most from being murdered by the police more than any other race in America. And Steve Kerr came out and said, and I commend him. He said that, no matter whatever your ideology is, you just have to simply be disgusted. And like with him, I agree. I'm 100% disgusted. And this is the reason why Colin Kaepernick, he's not standing for the American flag. He's not standing for the national anthem because he's trying to show America that America is not exactly how we're painting it to be. It's not the perfect picture that we're painting it to be. We still have a lot more work to do. Although our forefathers, people that came before us, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, although they helped us make tremendous strides, things are just still not equal. African American men are being targeted, and they cannot. Whatever they do, it's like they're in the wrong. Mr. Crutcher had his hands up. He didn't show any signs of aggression. He still was gunned down. There's been African American children killed by police. It's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. How many more of these senseless killings do we have to witness until there's some sort of change? I mean, everlasting change. And what's scary to me is that the athletes and social media is doing more to change these situations than the actual politicians, than our own president. You know what I'm saying? I love President Barack Obama, first black president. I was very happy when he won, because it kind of relinquished that excuse that we have things stacked up against us. That we can't thrive, we can't aspire to be what we want to be in life. Him becoming president kind of dispelled that. But then on his second term, all these murders of African Americans, and although he's saying the right things, he's not doing anything. If you think about this, and you may disagree with me, you can. You know what I'm saying? I still love Barack Obama. He's my guy, but this is one thing I disagree with him. If you look at every single president, they've always done something for somebody's race. Like during the times of when the Nazis were oppressing Jewish people, there was special legislation that helped protect Jewish people, especially John F. Kennedy signing the Civil Rights Act, that protected all minorities, including Jewish people. So each president has always done something for a special particular group of people. You know what I'm saying? Like President Barack Obama, he helped sign legislation to assist gay and lesbian people to get married in more than a few states. Before it was like 12 or 9 states. Now it's almost in every state in the United States. But here's the thing, you see that your people are getting oppressed and they are being targeted, and just no legislation, nothing. Even if he were to sign a law where, body cams, they're mandatory for all police departments and all 50 United States, that could bring about some sort of big change. And I don't know if his hands are tied because he's coming out of his presidency and he just doesn't want to rock the boat. Maybe he's rocked the boat, too much with the Obamacare. But I would say this. If there was one thing that he could leave a lasting impression about for our community is if he passes or he assists in getting Congress to pass some kind of legislation to make sure that these things stop happening. It shouldn't be on Colin Kaepernick. It shouldn't be on Steve Kerr to come out and say that this is wrong. Or we shouldn't be saying this is wrong anymore. We know it's wrong. How do we change it? That's what we should be saying. And that's what we should be doing. It makes absolutely no sense that over 100 I think it's gonna be over close to 200 or over 200 killing of African Americans. Especially I would say 50%, over 50% are innocent. They might have committed like a small crime, but they're not punishable by death. Do you understand me? And that's the one thing I just can't get over. These people are dying over little things. Somebody tells you to put your hands up, they put their hands up and they're still dying. They don't put their hands up, they die. It makes absolutely no sense. So what Steve Kerr says resonates with me very much so. Stephen A. Smith said that he wants athletes to be part of the solution. I think they are being part of the solution because, when Colin Kaepernick doesn't stand for the national anthem, now that becomes a talk. Now that becomes barbershop talk. Now it's affecting not just African Americans, but it's affecting white America. The thing that people have to understand is this. The national anthem is supposed to be national, correct? Everybody underneath it. African Americans cannot simply say, I'm going to blindly, stand for the national anthem, knowing that they're not getting national justice. They're not getting national policing. Justice is only for the whites. Justice is only for this group of people. But when an African American is killed, half the time the police officers are not even indicted. They don't go to court. There's no investigation. District attorney most of the time says, I concluded that we will not be pressing charges or anything like that. And part of the reason is because of the relationship that the district attorney plays with the police department. If a district attorney comes out and prosecutes an officer for killing a minority, then the officers say, well, we're not going to partner with the DA anymore. We're going to rebel against them. We've seen that in multiple states where police take a stand against the district attorney and vice versa. The district attorney took a stand against the police officer. So this causes infighting, and this ruins the whole structure because a system that's supposed to be based on justice is based more on relationships and a sense of loyalty rather than what's right. If an officer kills someone and is unlawfully, the district attorney should and shall throw the book at that person. And it doesn't matter if he's an officer or if they're going against the code, the law code, or whatever the case is. You don't snitch or rat on your own kind. So what? That officer was unfit to do their job. It's similar to if a doctor does a malpractice, he loses his license. He's barred. He possibly faces jail time. These officers are killing people, and they're just getting away with a slap on their wrist. They get desk duty for 6 months, and then they're back out there again. You know what I'm saying? And that makes absolutely no sense. And you think about this, too. This is what's scary. Officers have people's lives in their hands. Officers are getting 6 months to a year's training in some places. Doctors get 14 years of training. Dentists get 6 to 8 years of training. Nurses get 2 to 3 years of training. Officers get 6 months to a year's training, and then there's no follow-up. There are no CDs or accreditations. Like a doctor has to continuously take modules so he can keep his license. A lawyer has to continuously, take little exams, state exams, so he can practice law in a certain area. He has to show that they are competent. These officers do not have to take any retraining half the time. So we're already working in a system that's broken, and to have the DA say, I'm not going to prosecute this guy because he's an officer and the force is going to be mad at me, absolutely makes no sense. That's why I have to applaud the district attorney in Tulsa, because he charged the officer, which I believe her name is Betty Shelby, with first-degree manslaughter. And he reviewed the facts. He said there was no need for force, no need for violence. The officer's lawyer tried to say he was reaching in the window for something. The window was up, and when she was looking at him, she was close enough to see that his reflection of his arm was in the window of his car. So that's not even an excuse. There's no excuse there. So good for him, because as Americans, like Steve Kerr said, we should all be disgusted with this. This is not even though we're saying this is like minorities, and minorities have been targeted, there have been white people that have been unlawfully killed by the police. Like how can I sit here and say with 100% confidence and feel good that, any day, white, black, Asian, Puerto Rican, my child or my father or my brother or my wife or my daughter can be killed by an officer for no reason, just because the officer's scared. Like in the case of Mr. Crutcher, the officer was scared. She said that he seemed dangerous. Does that warrant killing somebody because they seem dangerous? It makes absolutely no sense. Another thing is, if you ever notice something about these officers, when they shoot people, they shoot to kill. And that's kind of like an unwritten law when it comes to guns. They say a dead man doesn't tell any tales. So when these officers shoot, they shoot to kill. So then this way, the person that got shot can't tell their story. And they're doing this on purpose. So maybe that's something that they should be able to rewrite in the legislation and say, when you're dealing with a person and they're not unarmed, if you're going to shoot, do not shoot to kill. Shoot to maim or to slow down or something. Or tase, find different ways. Like the British police force, they're able to take people down, and they haven't had they haven't had even a quarter of the amount of murders by police to citizens. Haven't had it. So, I mean, if they can do it, we obviously can do it. We just need better training. We need better legislation. A lot of times people get caught up in voting, like, oh, vote for Trump, vote for Hillary Clinton. That's all fine and dandy, but I'm gonna tell you something. Well, the real things we have to vote for are our local governments, because a lot of things in local government are why in certain states and places that we live, police have so much authority to do what they want and kill people and get away with it. Like there are like a lot of local ordinances. A lot of times we don't watch our local news. We think it's stupid, but if you really watch the news, maybe just take 2 days or 3 days, watch the news, and you'll see all these little things about local law enforcement, local legislation. These local legislations change and affect our lives. Do you know in certain states, officers do not need warrants anymore to see what's going on in your house? They don't need a warrant. In certain states, officers no longer need probable cause. They could just go ahead and do what they need to do. They don't need probable cause because we're not voting for our local governments. And that's the problem. It's a systemic problem because it's like we're not getting the education, number one. Number two, police officers are not getting the education, how to deal with certain situations, how to handle situations better. You would think that after all these shootings, that each police force or the government would make it mandatory where police retake sensitivity training or retake training or watch the situations or scenarios and, come up with a test to see if they would pass the test, if there was something, if there's something they had to do. Nothing there. And that's the sad part. You know what I'm saying? We're not getting the education. They're not getting the education. Then on top of that, the states they're autonomous about the way the police force handles things because they don't want the federal government coming in. That being said, the federal government is not providing that training. And then when these things are getting investigated by local law enforcement, internal affairs is with the state. So they don't, like I just told you, police officers have a code. And the code is, we're not going to snitch on our brother. He did his job. I'm going to tell you something right now. Police officers will never criticize another officer. They'll never say that he did a bad job. They'll never say that. They'll just say, you don't know what we go through. That's all they'll say. You don't know what we go through. We won't go through. What's crazy is, like, all other people, rappers say other rappers suck. Doctors say this doctor, I don't believe in his kind of style of medicine. Police, law enforcement is the only job where I see that nobody criticizes any other person. And if they do, they're shunned. It makes absolutely no sense. If somebody's doing a bad job, they're doing a bad job. That's all it is. You know, where I worked and where I work now, where I used to work, if you did a good job, they said good job. If you did a bad job, you get written up, or they threaten you and say, you know, you can't have your job anymore. And my peers, they would tell me if I was doing a bad job, and my peers, they'll tell me, okay, you need to pick it up, or you didn't do this, you didn't do that right. Law enforcement, they do not want to publicly criticize each other because of the code, and that's the problem. Internal Affairs goes to investigate these shootings on the local level, and then they present their facts to the DA. DA says, oh, okay, no, it's okay, we won't prosecute. There has to be some kind of change. They have to make it where when these shootings take place and law enforcement kills a citizen, has to be automatically go to federal government. Because the federal government is not biased. They don't say stuff like, well, you don't know how it is to live in Louisiana. You don't know how it is to live in Charlotte. No, it has nothing to do with that. All it has to do with is, did you kill this person? Yes. Did you kill this person? Was it lawful? No. Okay, well, guess what? You're going to jail. That's all it is. It's very simple. But the thing is, we're not getting those changes because our leaders are choosing to just follow, to just watch. They're watching Colin Kaepernick. They're watching Steve Kerr. They're not making any moves. And here's the thing. If we really want to see change that way we want to see it, it's going to be up to us to go and vote and go and create our own laws, because the government is supposed to be for the people, by the people. So it's time for the people to take matters into their own hands, and not in terms of being violent. Like, violence begets more violence. That's not it. We have to learn how to work the system. Learn to work the system and learn to pass new legislation to say, hey, look, I do not agree with this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get 1,000 signatures. We have this new bill. We need 10,000 signatures. Let's get this passed. Let's get this passed. Even if it's something to the effect of the affirmative action, where, you know, they have to give minorities a chance to apply for certain jobs. Well, hey, maybe you have to give minorities a benefit of a doubt. You know what I'm saying? A clause where it says you cannot profile. You see what I'm saying? Because this is going on way too much. Innocent people are dying. Fathers are dying. Kids are not able to go home. They're not able to go home and see their mom and dad because an officer took their lives. It's sad. And the crazy thing is, people will say, like, okay, you know, this is a new country, this is a new day, life is better now than it's ever been, just get over it. They'll tell, like, a black person, get over it. It's something that you just get over, something you gloss over. But, and I don't mean to compare the two or anything. It's something that's near and dear to our hearts. It's something that affects us every day. You want us to just simply get over it, or you want to say that we need to do right by law enforcement. But half of the murders that took place, African Americans were doing the right thing. They were having their hands up. They were putting their hands on their head. They were laying down. You know, they were saying, I have a weapon on me. You know, they were alerting the cops to you. You're supposed to tell the cops you have a weapon on you if they stop you. They were doing that stuff, and they still die. Here's the thing. You want us to get over that. You know, every year, September 11th, we go and look at the memorial, and we we pay our respects to people that passed away in the 9/11 attacks. Not once do I ever hear people say, just get over that. That was 11 years, that was 2015 years ago. Just get over it. You want black people to get over. First of all, let me tell you what you want black people to get over. You telling black people to get over officers killing black folks is like telling Jewish people to get over the Holocaust. Never gonna happen. You want black people to get rid of over 400 years of slavery. Then you want them to get over 50 years of discrimination with the whole civil rights until the civil rights came. Segregation. You want us to get over all of that stuff. You think none of that stuff matters because we have a black president and stuff like that. It's not the case. The same way you wouldn't tell a Jewish person to get over the Holocaust, the same way you're not supposed to tell 9/11 survivors and families affected by 9/11 to get over 9/11. Do not tell African Americans to get over police brutality and people shooting the police. This has been going on since before Rodney King days. Before his days, it's probably a bunch of undocumented incidents where cops, Amadou Diallo, just abusing their power. You want us to get over that when we're the ones most affected. Whoever says something like that has to be one of the most uneducated, one of the most immoral and insensitive people on the planet. And when I say uneducated, it's not about your degrees. It's about humanistic education. How you deal with your fellow man. Something like that that's touchy to them. You can't just tell somebody to get over it. And I've heard this plenty of times. Just get over it. Oh, just listen to the cops. Do what they say. Ladies and gentlemen, these people are doing what the cops tell them to do. And they're still passing away. This has to stop. I'm disgusted. I want to know how you feel about this. Let me know if you're disgusted. Is Steve Kerr right? Should we all be disgusted? I say yes. What do you think? This is Vlad from Hoops Junction, where hoops meets hoopla. Peace.